Matthew Green has come here to tie the history and archaeology together.
What's interesting and exciting about the new churchyard is that we can drill down and get inside the mindset of the 17th century city at a time when it's evolving to become the biggest city in the whole of Europe.
Matthew's heading south of the river, guided by an app that ties the most accurate early map of the city to today's GPS.
Can we go right here?
He thinks he can flesh out the life story of one of the new churchyard dead. A man named John Eagle was buried there on the 18th of January, 1686. But who was he, and what killed him? The clue is that he lived on the north bank of the Thames, in the parish of St. Martin Vintry. Matthew Green is following his trail to Bankside. Just across the river, but a world away. For young men especially, this was the pleasure capital of London.
Knowing what we do from the few scraps of information in the registry, I would say that quite probably he came across looking for geese, and he was bitten by a goose.
Matthew thinks John Eagle came to Bankside looking for sex. A goose was a slang term for a prostitute.
A shameless hussy has honey in her lips, and her mouth is as sweet as honey, her throat as soft as oil. But the end of her is more bitter than aloes, and her tongue is more sharp than a two-edged sword.
Bankside had at least 18 brothels, mostly on the riverbank, or strung out on the aptly named Maid Lane. Today it's called Park Street. But Matthew doesn't think John Eagle was heading for the brothels. He had something more rough and ready in mind.
Well, we're coming up to Rose Alley on the right. Rose Alley got its name after the colloquial term for a prostitute, because a rose meant prostitute, and indeed to pluck a rose meant to pick up a prostitute.
A man like Eagle, buried in the new churchyard, didn't have much money. A streetwalker was a cheaper option. So Matthew takes his final detour down Dead Man's Place. In the 17th century, this street led to a cemetery for prostitutes, where local people still tie ribbons on the gates in a touching memorial. Streetwalkers were struck down by the same terrible disease that killed John Eagle. The French pox, or syphilis. Today, it's treatable with penicillin. Back then, young men and women made old and wretched bones.
Given how close John Eagle lived to the main crossing to Bankside, it's entirely plausible that he came down, caught syphilis, and then went back. And ultimately, he met his end and was buried in the new churchyard.